Hey guys, if you're looking for a camera to take some really high quality photos and videos, but you don't really want to take on the price or the size of a full DSLR, the Canon PowerShot G7X might be a good option for you. It is personally one of the best compact cameras that I have ever used, and in this review I want to show you what it can and what it can't do. The Canon G7X was released in September 2014 and features a large 20.2 megapixel CMOS sensor. It comes with a very bright lens that opens up to a large f1.8 aperture at the wide end and remains at a still respectable f2.8 when fully zoomed in. The effective focal range is 24 to 100 mm and the lens features some very impressive image stabilization, especially when taking video. The camera can shoot images in both JPEG and RAW formats and can record video in Full HD at up to 60 frames per second. On the back of the G7X you will find a bright and easy to use 3-inch or 7.5 cm LCD touchscreen. But if you prefer, you can also just use the manual controls to manage all of your camera settings. You can flip the screen around by a full 180 degrees so you can see yourself and your friends when taking photos or videos. This is a must-have feature if you're into vlogging, and it really takes the mystery out of what will actually end up in the image. On the top, the G7X offers two separate mode dials, one for changing the actual shooting mode and another one, which I personally like a lot, to easily control the exposure compensation, which sets the brightness for both photos and videos. You will also find a small inbuilt flash unit that you can pop out with a switch on the side. I generally never use the flash on any of my compact cameras simply because I think it always comes out looking pretty awful, but it's nice to have just in case you really can't go without. In terms of connectivity, the camera offers ports for micro HDMI and USB, but also comes with Wi-Fi capabilities. This allows you to transfer your photos and videos directly to your computer, your phone, or often to the online world without any cables whatsoever. The camera has a ring around the lens that you can configure to control any function you want, although I usually leave it on the default setting for my selected shooting mode. On the back there's also a ring function button, and again you can use the in-camera menu to easily change its functionality to anything you want. I personally enjoy the layout of the controls on the back of the camera as well as the menu system for the Canon G7X. Now, that might be due to the fact that my main camera is actually a Canon DSLR and so it feels very familiar, but I just feel that Canon's interfaces are generally more intuitive than what I've seen from other companies. The G7X is certainly a slightly more chunky compact camera, weighing in at just over 300 grams with memory card and battery. But it still fits comfortably into your pocket and really weighs only a fraction of any full-blown DSLR. With a focal range of 24 to 100 mm compared to a 35 mm format, the Canon G7X is a great all-rounder. Here's a shot of the Royal Exhibition building in Melbourne, taken fully zoomed out at 24 mm. And here's the exact same shot from the same location, taken fully zoomed in at 100 mm. As you can see, the camera has a pretty good range and you will likely find it sufficient for most situations you'll encounter while traveling or in your day-to-day life. For me, however, the absolute highlight of the Canon G7X is the spectacular image quality. If we scale this already zoomed in shot up to 100%, you can see how crisp and clear this image came out. The camera is capable of capturing an incredible amount of detail. Remember, this is how far back from the exhibition building I was actually standing when I took this shot. With a large aperture of f1.8, you can capture some really beautiful shallow depth of field shots. Because the camera can focus on objects that are as close as 5 cm from the lens, you can take some really nice macro shots as well. There is, however, one issue that I've noticed. Sometimes, especially when taking macro shots against very structured surfaces, the bokeh can appear as if the image was spinning a little bit, like there's a little bit of radial distortion in the shot and the edges are rather blurred out. Especially in this shot, I would expect there to be a flat plane of focus going all the way from left to right through the image. But around the edges of the shot, everything seems to be blurred out a little bit. Not only is the large f1.8 aperture great for shallow depth of field, but it also helps the Canon G7X capture great shots at night. This shot down one of the streets in Melbourne is entirely handheld. The camera is perfectly capable of taking great handheld shots while walking through the city at night. The ISO range of the camera is 125 up to 12,800. Combined with a fast lens, this allows you to capture some great city night scenes like this shot here over the Yarra River. One issue, however, that even the G7X is not immune to is noise at high ISO levels. In this image here, shot at ISO 2500, you can clearly see a fair amount of noise. To assist you overcome some of these photography challenges, the Canon G7X comes with a number of special shooting modes for all sorts of situations, and one of them is the handheld night scene mode. In this mode, the camera takes a burst of images and then combines them to reduce the noise in the final image. While that leaves your image looking a little bit soft and a little bit more cropped in to allow for the processing, it also removes most of the noise and leaves you with an overall more pleasant image. The Canon G7X comes with all sorts of other custom shooting modes and artistic effects such as nostalgic, soft focus, super vivid, fisheye, HDR and tilt shift or miniature mode. Another rather unique shooting mode of the camera is the all effects mode. With a single press of the shutter, this mode creates a set of images with different Instagram-like effects and crops applied to them. This is a little bit random, but I've actually found some really nice shots that I may otherwise not have thought of. Finally, here's a feature for the more pro photography enthusiast. I shoot all of my images in RAW because I feel it gives me much more flexibility to get the most out of my shots in post-processing. The Canon PowerShot G7X supports both JPEG and RAW image formats, and you can configure whether you want to capture one or the other or both at once. Okay, now that we've seen the images the camera can produce, let's check out some videos taken with the Canon PowerShot G7X.
Hey guys, and welcome to the Royal Exhibition Centre out here in Melbourne. I'm out with the G7X to show you what vlog footage looks like, especially in a very high contrast situation such as today. Australian sun is generally very bright, so cameras tend to struggle a little bit, but the G7X is actually surprisingly good at dealing with this high contrast and adjusting the brightness of the footage accordingly. Also with the wide lens, it's quite easy to get a lot into the background of the shot, even if you're holding the camera just at arm's length. I actually really like the thumb pad on the back of the camera because it makes it nice and easy to hold. One thing to be aware of though, especially for audio, because the microphone is on top of the Canon G7X, don't hold the camera with your hand around the camera, otherwise it's just going to block off the audio and the microphone input. Another thing, obviously I'm just walking, I'm not even looking where I'm going, so it is nice and stable even if you're holding it, you know, a little bit shaky on one hand. So I think the G7X is actually makes for a really great vlogging camera.
Personally, I'm a big fan of the Canon G7X, mainly due to its pretty epic image and video quality. With full manual controls, 1080p video at 60 frames per second and RAW file format, it really has everything you could want, short of upgrading to full DSLR. Image stabilization, especially when you're taking videos or vlogs, is simply amazing. And the fact that you can just keep using the camera even after the sun has gone down due to the really fast f1.8 lens is just a cherry on top. Now, not all things are amazing about this camera. I'm mainly disappointed with the audio quality. Even if it's just a little bit windy, and in Melbourne it's always windy, the audio can be a little bit hard to hear and there's very little you can do about it. As I said, image quality is absolutely amazing, but if you're shooting macro shots at 24mm and you're really close to your subject, the edges of the image may turn out rather blurry. Video can also turn a little bit soft and lose some of that sharpness in low light. While battery life is, well, I wouldn't call it great, but it's decent, the battery indicator does not really like to play ball. even if the battery is almost depleted, if you leave the camera overnight, the battery indicator may show up as full the next morning, but then run down to zero within 5 minutes. Personally, I recommend always charge your battery overnight if you're going to take the camera out on a shoot, or even better, just bring along a spare battery. The Canon PowerShot G7X is certainly not a cheap compact camera, but if you want to get some really high quality photos and videos without going all the way to a full DSLR, I highly recommend you go check it out and see if it is the right tool for you. I really hope you enjoyed this video. As always, if you do have any comments, questions or suggestions, just leave them down in the section below. If you did like this video, please give it a thumbs up, favorite it and share it with the world. And if you want to see more, make sure you go to YouTube/Surface Studio and subscribe. Thank you very much for watching. Until next time, I will see you later.